Hello, everybody, and welcome to our third installment of Political Malware. Today, I'm John Wang, and with me are my co-hosts Carrington Hughes and David Kang. Say hello.
Hello?
Hi.
Today, we have something special for you as we have our host, Carrington Hughes, go up and debate against a friend of ours, Mr. Thad Roosevelt. Please introduce yourself.
Oh there. So, what should I say about myself?
Like, your views? I don't know, like, why we're doing this in the first place?
Oh, y'all reached out to me and I agreed to debate you. I'm a socialist from Latvia. There's probably going to be a lot of yawning because I have had less than 5 hours of sleep. So, yeah.
Well, we'll try to keep this as brief as possible, and by brief, I mean we'll just give you as much time as possible to talk, and hopefully we can get things through for you. So, the format of this debate will be similar to the Democratic debate that we've seen throughout this election cycle. We'll start with opening statements for each quote-unquote candidate here, and both David and I will be presenting you with questions. You may address them however you like. You have a minute 30 per question, and we'll allow each quote-unquote candidate to address it, as well as address anything directly directed at them. And we'll see how things go for our first debate. Sound good to you both?
Sounds great.
Okay. But wait, you know that the opening statements have been taken out in the most recent debates.
Too bad.
There's only two of you, so
Instead of 33 Democrats on the stage, we have 2 socialists and communists.
Thank you, Jimmy. Very cool.
Let the greater of evils win. We'll start with you, Mrs. Carrington Hughes, with your opening statements.
Hello, thank you. As the moderator previously noted, I am a communist. However, with that being noted, I do find myself skeptical of many of the people on the left, as well as the intentions of many of those who are also on the left or spouting many leftist ideals. I find it that many ideals don't have their place in society right now and should be reformed, as well as that I do not find the connect between something that someone like maybe Marx said in the 1800s compared to now, due to there being obvious shifts in our culture. I yield my time.
And you, Mr. Roosevelt, your time starts.
Okay, yes, it is true that I'm a socialist, and I hold many centrists and, well, quote unquote centrists and right wingers in do not view them favorably. Then I yield my time.
All right. Well, going into our first topic, we'll go with, I think, something that has been an issue that multiple people bring up as their top issue, healthcare. David, first question goes to you on what you want to provide me.
all right. So I'm just gonna start this off very simply. Do you support Bernie's Medicare for All proposal, or do you support some other form of healthcare legislation? And Carrington can start.
Thank you. So, with this in mind, I just have to say that yes, there are obvious problems with our healthcare system. However, I'm going to be honest when I say that tearing down the system that we have completely, the immediate effect, it's not going to work. It won't be good for the pharmaceutical sales reps. It won't be good for the pharmacy and business managers. It won't be good for the insurance companies. And yes, I'm going to sound crazy for defending the insurance companies, but a lot of the money that comes from the prescriptions and the scripts, it goes into research and development for helping make more specialized treatment when it comes to the citizens that pay for healthcare. So yes, I am all for Medicare for all, but we have to go at this sensibly, because just simply saying, yeah, we're all going to put you on a government program, that hasn't worked, like, in many cases. And doing that right now in such a pivotal point in our history, where the middle class is paying so much for their health care, yet aren't receiving the proper treatment for it, as well as having almost no one that criticizes the current healthcare system know about such, consistencies within the pharmaceutical industry, is actually rather disheartening. So, in short, yes, I do believe that at some point in the future, America should have a Medicare for all program akin to the one that is in Scotland. However, for right now, no, we shouldn't do it. We should just try to slowly phase it in, and allow people either A, keep their regular healthcare insurance, or B, go to the government subsidized one. I yield my time.
Right. To you, Mr. Roosevelt.
Yes, I do. Medicare for all would bring down costs for the average worker. It takes healthcare off the backs of businesses. It reduces bureaucracy and therefore helping hospitals and pose more choice to you rather than a public option, because under a government system you can go to any doctor you want, while under a private plan you are limited to just a few doctors and a hospital, and and you can pay large sums of money. Another thing is that yes, we're bringing down most of the system, but you have a 4-year transition plan under Bernie's system, which gradually reduces the requirement for Medicare. I yield my time.
If allowed, may I respond to that?
You may, 30 seconds.
Okay, thank you. So I'm going to start off by saying that, while again, I think that plan's great, however, I feel like this is excluding the whole process that happens with the pharmaceutical industry. With something such as pharmacy and benefits managers, sure, we can try and regulate everything, but most of the problem comes from when these multinational companies, they end up taking other companies. You can't just destroy that merger. How are you going to, say, oh, we're going to lower the cost? But that merger is still there. And they can change the whole price system. This includes buying in bulk. This includes with the express scripts. And this includes with the policy of drug company to the pharmacy aspect of it. So again, I don't find that to be very fruitful at this moment. Along with this, when you say, I think it would be better not to have public option and to just have it all go under the government, I kind of feel like this isn't a good choice, because even a capitalist system like modern day Russia, for example, they have all of their healthcare fall under one system, right? And at this point, that is killing them. You see people with tuberculosis in the same ward with someone that has a minor illness or a minor infection. And even though the costs are low for them, keep in mind their GDP is also incredibly low. That doesn't work with a country like America. And to some extent, even the UK system is currently flawed. The only system I can see that is perfectly working up to up to par with what we're currently discussing right now is really a small section, and that's in Scotland, as I previously mentioned, because it's offering competition.
Time's up.
Thank you.
All right. We'll now move on to our second question pertaining to healthcare. When it comes to the way that healthcare has been done in the United States so far, what would you say is a good way to cover the cost that is produced, whether it be trying to cover things such as Medicare for all? How would you cover it? Or if you don't want to, how would you fix our current healthcare system besides the plans that we provided as examples? We'll start with Mr. Roosevelt on this one.
Okay, so in terms of funding Medicare for all, the best answer would be a payroll tax and increases in the income tax, and that would cover a portion of the cost, while the other expenses would be covered by a wealth tax and a tax on Wall Street transactions. I yield my time.
All right, then Mrs. Hughes.
Again, I still feel the need to stay with a public option program and then have a separate government program. Because as it stands currently, a lot of government programs are currently underfunded. And along with this, a lot of these government programs tend to fail or run out of money in the long scheme of things. So at this point, yeah, sure, raise the taxes. Yeah, that's all fine and good. However, with the current stance in the Congress, as well as the stance of lobbyists all across the country, including that of Pfizer, I don't think that it's really logical that we're going to say that, oh yeah, that's definitely going to be feasible in our near future, like next 4 years future. I yield my time.
All right. David, you have the next question.
Yeah. So we're gonna start with Carrington on this one, and my question is just: do you think that Medicare for all can feasibly be passed at any point by the Republican Senate? I know Carrington just sort of touched on this, but I just want you guys to expand on it.
To some extent, no. Again, I already stated my positions on this. I'm a communist. However, as it stands, there are currently a lot of Republicans, and let's say, hypothetically, that we do get a Democrat majority in both the House and the Senate. I still do think that there are going to be a lot of corporate Democrats and a lot of moderate Democrats and even a lot more fiscally conservative Democrats that are going to be like, that is not good for our future. I do not agree with this. I believe that the market rules guide a better path to the healthcare issue. So, no, I don't see this happening unless they have a complete shift in their current ideology. I yield my time.
All right, and Roosevelt.
Okay, under a Republican Senate, definitely not, but you could reasonably pass it with a Democratic majority that is not a 50-51, and if corporate Democrats do not fall in line with Sanders, Sanders has himself said that he would support primary challengers to said incumbents. And yeah, I yield my time.
Point to reply.
Granted.
Thank you. I know that you talked about this, but again, I still feel like that there would be people that are a bit hold back on it. I don't feel like such a huge shift like that is really feasible for a lot of the Democrats within our House, when a lot of them openly deny, saying like, no, I'm not a socialist, that's a socialist plan. We have even seen this with someone like Bloomberg, and let's be fair here, I don't think a lot of Democrats necessarily disagree with his stance on that a lot of this stuff is communism to people like them. Along with this, I think you have completely overlooked my statement on lobbyists within this country. So I just wonder if you're keeping that in mind, or are you just ignoring that for right now? That's all.
So I would like to respond.
Yeah.
So yes, lobbyists are a problem, and you have to deal with them. But you lessen their influence if you give the immediate threat of their chances of winning the primary, but well, their Senate or House primary for their respective seats. And yeah, that's
Pardon.
my time.
Pardon, I don't mean to interrupt you, but you mentioned something about seats. Lobbyists don't own seats, they just funnel money into these.
They lobby.
Yes, but I hope
their
you do
primary.
realize that those lobbyists are people like Bloomberg or companies such as Pfizer that
Alright.
have influenced for a long time. And I doubt
Okay,
that
yes,
in one of
hold on.
that in
I'm
some,
going
let me
to.
finish. I doubt that in some of the more rural or conservative parts of this country that still try and vote blue, that they're going to be like, yeah, sure, I completely agree with that message. Because again, when you have stuff coming in through lobbyist papers or lobbyist news or something of the like, where there is some sort of influence when they're saying, no, this is definitely bad, I don't think that it's going to be feasible when obviously those senators have something on the line and obviously they're still going to be in charge or at least have some sort of influence in the current makeup of the Congress, no matter how progressive the presidency might be.
Uh, by their seats, I meant the incumbent seats, i.e., Mansion or someone like that. So that's what I meant.
So I'd sort of just like to expand on this topic really quickly because I know that you two have sort of been passionate about your positions on it. So with the impeachment trial recently, we saw Democrats and the Republicans both vote mostly in line. Do you think that the whips of both of the respective parties would be able to whip their party members on a bill like Medicare for All, or do you think that it could end up being a situation where a lot of senators and representatives decide to defy the whip of the party? Roosevelt can go first.
So, there would be several defectors. I will have to admit there will be several defectors, but I think most would stay in line with the party whip, and they would stay loyal. I yield my time.
Okay, Carrington.
I don't find this to be true. I don't think that, let's hypothetically say Bernie or Warren gets elected, that automatically the DNC chair, or all the old conservative Republicans comparatively to, the standards of whatever presidency might come if it is a Democrat, that they will just, have a change of heart and immediately go and say, yeah, you know what, I'm going to throw out what I personally believe is right for this. Unless a person can be truly argued with and can truly believe in it, I don't think that they'll make that change. I mean, we can see it with Klobuchar, we can see it with Julian Castro, we can see it with a lot of other senators or former senators or even representatives that have come out to say, no, I don't like this, those don't represent my views, I'm totally against it. I mean, for example, even with the impeachment trial, even though, again, party line vote, a representative from my state said, no, I don't agree with this, I'm going to switch parties. So again, I'm not going to say, hey, everyone's just going to switch to be an independent or Republican, but I am saying, yes, there are going to be people that are like, yeah, I don't agree with this at all. I don't see the point in passing this. And again, I feel like the number of conservative and moderate Democrats compared to the number of progressive Democrats is completely, outnumbered in favor for the conservative and moderates within this country. I yield.
You can ask the next question.
Alright. So I think we should definitely go back onto the healthcare topic because I think this time around we should be a little bit more centered around it. So when we take a look back at the history between Republicans and Democrats, for a long time Republicans had supported a public option. Would you like to express on why you believe Republicans have gone in full force more recently within the past, 8 years, on why they oppose public option healthcare plans? We'll start with you, Mr. Roosevelt.
Okay, so before I continue, I would like to say that, yeah, even in the 1990s, Gingrich supported a plan which is quite similar, may even be exactly the same as the ACA. They moved to the right mostly due to the influence of radio hosts and news outlets which directly, well, are used by their base, and hence why if you stay on that position, the base will start to hate you and support a primary challenger against you. I yield my time.
Alright, Mrs. Hughes, your turn.
I don't really have any contention with that statement. I do think, however, there's a sort of black and white with that statement, because yes, a lot of it is rhetoric. However, part of it is like, yeah, it has shifted to the right, but some of the views that they felt was a part of their party at one point, they felt didn't represent them in the end. I mean, we could see that with gun control in the 80s. Reagan was for gun control. But again, as the party went on through time, they were very opposed to gun control. So, yes, positions can change over time, and yes, a lot of it is rhetoric, but some of it is just evolution. I yield.
Alright. David, next question.
Yeah. So specifically regarding the, I suppose the specifics of the plan. So Thad has said that he supports Medicare for all, and Carrington, you said that you support more of a public option idea. Um, so specifically regarding the costs for those, I know you've touched on it a little bit, but if you could just expand on how you think that those programs should be paid for and why the benefits of them regarding those costs are better than the other plan. Starting with whoever wants to start, I guess.
We'll go with Hughes since I gave Mr. Roosevelt his previous question as well.
Okay, thank you. Again, I do think a public option is just better. I do think that if you're able to afford your your healthcare and you think that is better than whatever a subsidized government program can provide you, then sure, I'm all for it. However, for people that are dealing with terrible socioeconomic issues, such as those within more urban areas or such as those within more rural poor areas, that yeah, a government subsidized program would be best for them. However, for someone that's like middle class but is making like $100,000 a year or more than that, then yeah, I think that they can afford their own private insurance. They deserve to, have that option to pay for it if they really do want it, because in the end, they are going to pay for it through their taxes, whether, it's the government subsidized program, which again varies in terms of quality, or rather it's your own private insurance program. And again, we need to talk about the payment issue. So again, I am saying that we should add that into our yearly budget, and with that it would come, yes, from the taxpayers, because we're going to have to be truthful about it. It is going to, come and affect the little guy who is middle class, and yeah, it's also going to affect the upper class too. I yield.
All right, Mr. Roosevelt, your turn.
Should I have to once again repeat how is Medicare for all going to be paid for, or fine, I'll repeat it. Medicare for all will be paid by wealth tax, an increase in the income tax, and other and the payroll tax. Benefits of Medicare for all outweigh the costs of it, because you will have an increase in your public taxes of, say, income tax and payroll tax, but all out-of-pocket expenses, premiums, deductibles, co-pays, be eliminated, therefore saving people money. And here's the problem with the public option. You're gonna pass it. The private plan will dump all of the unhealthy people on the government plan, take all the healthy people with them, increasing the cost of the government plan and decreasing quality. And now you're my time.
Point for reply. So you noted that over time the costs will not outweigh the actual benefits. I tend to disagree. You also mentioned the income tax as well as the payroll tax. Will that happen to affect the middle class as well as even possibly the lower class? Because I don't think just imposing a wealth tax is just going to work unless you're going to tax them up to wazoo. And yes, I'm for that, but is that reasonably going to pass? No. Along with that, you mentioned that all the unhealthy people will go on the public option program. I tend to disagree with that. It's an option for a reason. So reasonably, I can say a middle class person that isn't, stuck in a terrible economic situation can say, yeah, sure, I want to go with the public option program, or say, even though that the private version costs them a bit more, say, yeah, you know what? I do like the private version better. And again, if you even listen to one of my previous statements, I did say that we should allow competition within the subsidized program, akin to that of the likes of Scotland. Because Scotland, how they offer competition between themselves, it keeps the economy growing and keeps it from festering into a terrible government subsidized plan. I yield my time.
May I quickly respond to that?
Yep, you can.
Why give people the option to get ripped off, though?
But if it's an option,
Why?
but if it's an option, right?
It's an option to
But
get ripped off.
no. So question, right?
Yes, it is.
No, let me finish.
Like, literally.
Let me finish. Let me finish. You asked me a question, let me finish. So, if you're saying a public option is being ripped off, then question, isn't putting all of the millions of people that live in the United States in a government subsidized program that we are not sure can be paid for adequately also being ripped off? If it's not offering competition between one another, if it also isn't keeping into account the specialized medications, the express scripts, and the pharmacy and benefits managers that also have to deal with these bulk purchases of medication and also have to deal with the research and development of lots of these medications. The public option, let me finish. The public option allows you to say, yeah, sure, I want decent quality. I want good quality healthcare, right? But the private program says, yeah, no, I don't want to live off the government for all of my work and needs because I can afford to have privatized healthcare. Again, if we can logically pay for it, that it won't affect the middle class and possibly even the lower class, because a wealth tax just isn't going to, get all the rich and going to help everything. No, there are middle class people that live in California and live in New Jersey and live in New York that have the highest income tax in this country, who are still middle class and will have to pay out of pocket for that. They still want to keep their private health care.
I'll respond to that quickly. There is a provision in Bernie's bill that states that if the benefits of your private program are larger than the benefits of the government option, you are entitled to those benefits either way.
Then why not just keep your private health care? You're going to pay out of pocket with it in taxes anyway.
Okay, how do I explain it? You are still really out of pocket though, i.e. premiums, copay deductibles from that plan, therefore saving you money either way when you are on the government plan.
But again, is it right now, short term, that the income tax is going to increase for these middle class people that live in these high income tax areas that still like and enjoy their private health care and don't find the use in a government subsidized program?
So I would like you to mention any person who likes their private insurance and they do not like their insurance. They like their doctor, and their hospital.
I can name a multitude of people that like both their insurance and both their doctor.
And still,
I like my insurance and my doctor. I have scoliosis. And I have been given the option to go back and forth between different hospitals and different specialists just to find out that I can be soft braced. Because my thoracic scoliosis that extends from my upper back to my neck, that is 45-degree angle, I can go and get soft braced. A technique that is specifically specialized for me.
Oh, good. But under Bernie's plan, you will have to pay less to do that.
Question, do you know how much a soft brace compared to a hard brace costs? I just want to know.
I said no.
No? Okay. So a soft brace, that costs around maybe $3,000, right? After the insurance, right? Including with all the physical therapy that I needed, as well as the need to try and correct my vision and my eyesight, as well as my anemia, that came out to $1,200. Now, do you know how all of this would cost under something like Bernie's plan? Or is it just hypotheticals?
It would cost less. You pay no out of pocket.
But hypothetically, what would the cost be? Because I didn't pay any out of pocket for that either.
I cannot name it the exact cost, no, on memory.
Okay, that's all I want to ask.
And let me quickly respond to something you were saying earlier. Yes, your income taxes will go up, but that is offset by out-of-pocket expenses being eliminated, and therefore you save money.
Again, with some of this, I didn't pay out of pocket. Most of it, if not all of it, I didn't pay out of pocket.
Hold on.
But my taxes are still high. I still live in New Jersey.
Just a quick thing before we go, is just stay too heavy on this topic. We'll let this go on for another minute or two before we move on to another question.
Okay,
Continue forth.
Sure, ball's in your court.
So I do not specifically say that you would add. Well, actually, I would not say that you would under that specific procedure. There are procedures where you have to pay out of pocket, and in those you get your out of pocket expenses get eliminated. That would be the case for millions of people.
Okay, so do the needs of many still outweigh the needs of the few that still won't be able to, logically come to the conclusion that yes, the Medicare for All program is better than the private public option because my taxes are up to wazoo because I lived on the coast of New Jersey, or because I live in Hoboken, or because I live in Santa Monica.
All of those needs are treated equally.
They're treated equally with the income tax that's higher in those specific states.
It's true. And
Do you know how much it costs to live in Albany? A lot of higher middle class families live up there, right? But a lot of them, right? And some of them, which I know, are widows, are single parents. Yet because their job pays decently enough where they can afford the house and can afford the taxes, despite how high they are, yet still don't know if they can afford, higher taxes on their property. Worry about stuff like this. Because the houses up there, right, are small compared to the ones that you can get down in the south. A house up here would cost maybe around, and I'm just going off of numbers off of the house I currently live in, before the market crash, maybe $480,000. Can you imagine what the taxes are like on that house? The income tax?
no, not exactly. But
Can you imagine how high they would be in such luxury places, according to certain real estate listings?
well,
Because the income tax, correct? And I'm just talking about East Coast, I'm not talking about anywhere around California for the West Coast, even though, as my understanding goes, with the rent, that's still pretty high. That income tax is taking up the bulk of their cash when they get their paycheck, if not more than it. So they have to schedule out what bills that they're going to pay and have to figure it out. Because even with all the stuff that they have in place and in check, and keep in mind, a lot of these people are higher middle class, or a little bit below that at best, right? They still don't think that under a Medicare for All program where their income taxes will be higher in those luxury real estate places, that they'll be able to afford it.
so I have not found any real provision where the property tax goes up. But
Property and income, most of the people in such luxury places make, let's say, maybe a little bit more than 100,000 each year, correct? And those people say that they are fine with their healthcare plan, yet their taxes are so high and don't want them to get higher. Yet, under that plan, the income tax would be higher for them because they're also part of the middle class. Is that fair?
I'm gonna give each of you like 15 seconds each to wrap up your arguments, and then we're gonna need to move on.
You may go first.
I do believe that the middle class simply cannot afford this. Sure, a government subsidized program is good if you have the option to go into it. However, as it currently stands, the middle class would have to pay for this. And for how long? Yeah, sure, we have provisions, but every case is different. And as far as I have seen some middle class people work and how they talk, they are perfectly fine with their healthcare package. And they are perfectly fine with the doctor that it provides, as well as the leniency that they have within it. Again, the market doesn't fix all problems, so as it currently stands, public option is the best for them. I yield.
Overall, people would pay less under Medicare for all. You, under, yes, your taxes will go up, but you will have to pay less for healthcare, and you have more choice to go to other hospitals and other doctors. And overall, care would be for most people. I yield.
Alright. Well, that will conclude our discussion on healthcare. We'll be moving on to talk about another big policy issue going on, and that is going to be foreign policy. So, Kang, or David, would you like the first question?
Yeah. So sort of starting this off, we've seen a lot of talk about non-interventionist foreign policy, that we should be less involved in regime change wars and overthrowing leaders of countries by sending in our military or by funding coups or what have you. So I'd just like to sort of get each of your stances on regime change wars and interventionism in foreign countries. Thad, you can go first.
Okay, I am anti-interventionist. I oppose I oppose the Iraq War. I support getting out of there. I support getting out of Afghanistan, and there should be. If you want to combat Russia, you don't compete with them on how much you can war. You undermine. The way you compete with them is that you undermine their source of power, i.e., Europe's energy and dependency on them. So I yield time.
Alright, Ms. Hughes?
I believe in interventionism. No, I don't think regime wars are great. I don't think that they're necessary. I think that most of them, if not all of them, have been pretty dumb and stupid. However, as it stands, we are in this mess. And as it currently stands, with both precedents from Russia, China, Pakistan, and a multitude of other countries within the Middle East, Africa, as well as the subcontinent of India, that are heavily involved in those places. And I feel like this kind of question for most people of that stance is kind of short-sighted, because when they say interventionism, that implies that they only think of the Middle East as if it isn't connected to any other region in the world, and as if they don't care about any other region in the world, as well as the hold that it has on geopolitics, as well as the members of NATO, the members of the United Nations, as well as the fact that influence within those countries, if American presence isn't there, has led to catastrophe, as we can currently see under this current administration. I yield my time.
Alright. The next question will be going to you first, Mrs. Hughes. So, you both bring up Russia multiple times in your arguments. Now, what are your opinions on the recent discovery of the Russian government attempting to back Bernie Sanders' campaign in the Democratic National Convention and the Democratic primaries?
I have seen Bernie Sanders disavow this, which, good on him. That's already a step in the right direction. However, as it stands, his stance on non-interventionism, that is good for Russia. Russia, they have been planning to run a pipeline through that region specifically, and without any American presence there. That would be great findings for them. Along with that, the presence that they would hold over countries like Iran, Afghanistan, Iraq, as well as several other countries within that region that they have relied on or are hoping to rely on is vast. It's great. And to the extent that we are still discussing this as a complete non-interventionalist stance, I find it almost disgusting because I find it to be completely naive of our current stance in foreign policy.
Alright, thank you, Mr. Roosevelt.
Okay, I have no contention with the statement that you put out at the start of the question, but at the start of your response, though I have contention with other things. Bernie's anti-interventionism, yes, it would periodically strengthen Russian influence over other regions, but other measures done by Bernie, from the Green New Deal to overall diplomacy, that would decrease Russian influence over Europe and over other regions of the world.
Point to reply.
If Mr. Roosevelt allows.
Okay, yes, you are allowed.
Granted.
When it comes to countries like Russia, and I know that we were just talking about Russia, but again, this also involves China and Pakistan, as well as a multitude of other countries, then we are forgetting that one, how will this Green New Deal bill pass? Two, I hope you know that this isn't just oil that we are speaking about when we talk about Russian influence. Along with this, I hope you do realize that the arms and ammunition, as well as small arms, that is typically sold to countries like that, with Russia being the second leading country when it comes to selling arms to different foreign countries, especially within the Middle East, this poses a problem when it comes to their influence in said region. Along with this influence comes with a share of votes in the United Nations. Along with this, we forget that Russia is a part of the P5, along with China, in the Security Council, which can basically veto anything that they dislike and kill the vote and resolution entirely. So, no, I don't think it's a good idea to leave. Because I feel like with Russian influence as well as Chinese influence that clearly work against American influence as well as American values, I think that in the end it will be a disadvantage. I feel that under American oversight, that region is better off left to us instead of it being a problem later on for other countries to deal with,
Okay,
as well as
what
us
has-
to deal with in the end.
What has American influence oversight given to Iraq, Syria, Libya, and other places?
It hasn't been bought by China yet.
The U.S., once it invaded Iraq, it gave reasons why China and Russia have
You do realize that before the invasions of those countries that we have been heavily involved in their politics before that, and that was due to Russian influence within those said countries. Only China is a recent phenomenon when it comes to the Middle East.
Yes, but it sped up the increase of their influence by a lot, and their alright, the only reason why he invaded those countries was based off of lies and misinformation.
No one's denying that. However, I'm stating
Yeah.
that before the fact, within the 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, before we ever invaded those countries, Russian influence, especially during the Cold War, was at an all-time high before we ever even invaded. And we can see this specifically under the Reagan and Bush administration. The first Bush, not the second Bush. Along with this, with the selling of arms in that region, along with the fact that Russia was a threat in that region due to its influence over the regime that was currently in there. That led to America, under the containment policy, to step in. Was it the right choice how they went about it with selling arms? No, because they ended up being problems later on. Because America didn't know how to further tie up that plan, because obviously containment didn't work out so well. However, as it stands, leaving right now in the middle of that and leaving our allies there alone, it's not a good plan. Again, with this, we have seen this recently with Donald Trump's plan, and as rash as that is, and I'm sure you have good intentions with this plan, as it currently stands, isn't going to work. Russia's influence in that region is too heavy, even after post-Soviet collapse. And this isn't even talking about Pakistan, as well as all the proxies and all the other non-state actors that are within that region. I yield my time.
If Mr. Roosevelt wants to respond to that, he can. If not, then we'll move on to our next question.
You may move on. I have to go.
David, would you like to give the next question now?
Yeah. So on the topic of foreign policy, this is a pretty simple question, I suppose, but it's just, would you reduce military? Do you support reducing military spending? And I guess Carrington can go first.
Absolutely, yes. I find the budget here that we have excessive, right? While I don't think that we should be stopping our operations abroad, I do think that the military budget is disgustingly high and is completely unreasonable for what we are doing and the quality that we are pushing out. We should push some of that money into funding better programs domestically.
And Roosevelt?
I also support the decrease of the military budget, and that those funds could be used elsewhere. I yield my time.
All right. So, sorry, that was sort of just a primer for my next question. It's so where would you how would you go about making cuts to the military budget? Like, would you pull out of conflict in certain areas? Would you stop operations in certain areas? Would you stop certain development programs? Would you close bases? What specifically would you do? And we can start with Roosevelt this time.
Okay, I would probably end several conflicts and close bases, and stop some development programs. Otherwise, I'm leave it the same.
All right, Carrington?
Research and development programs need to stay the same, as it keeps our technology, as well as the weaponry and the intelligence techniques used to be more advanced. However, I would be closing bases, not specifically within the Middle East. However, I would say in more Western European countries, as the need for them has long outgrown their stay. More specifically, in places like France, Germany, England, places like that, I find the use for them to be completely wasteful. However, on the note of stopping conflicts, if we can stop the conflict, then sure. However, as it currently stands, we're still heavily embroiled in it. I yield my time.
I'm just gonna ask a follow-up on that really quickly. Specifically, are there any conflicts that you could see us pulling out of? For Carrington.
Within the Middle East, as of right now, no. Most likely not. We've had like several decades within that country, and yes, by all means, we have ruined it, as well as other countries and other proxies and other non-state actors that we have funded. However, that doesn't mean all interventionist plans are all the same and that all of them have the same measure of badness or goodness to them. I would probably, if I had to cease operations anywhere, I would probably cease it around the Indian subcontinent nearing Tibet and Mongolia. See no need to stay there.
All right. And I think we've already heard from Thad on what sorts of conflicts he would pull out of. So, I mean, Thad, do you want to say anything on that topic, or can we move on?
I would add something else. I would probably decrease the arms sale to Saudi Arabia because they're literally committing war crimes in Yemen as we speak, and otherwise, you have heard my stances on regime change. I yield my time.
All right. So the next thing that I would like to discuss, sort of regarding foreign policy, is election interference. Sorry. So if we talk about election interference, right, we have claims that Russia interfered in the 2016 elections. Now we have claims that they're going to be interfering in the 2020 elections. But I think something that is really ignored when we're talking about the election interference holds debate is that the United States has historically been very involved in election interference, especially through the CIA. So do you think that it's fair for the United States to interfere in elections in democracies around the world in order to get the leaders that they want in power, or do you think that that is a subversion of democracy? And we can start with Roosevelt, I guess.
Well, no, it's not fair. It's a subversion of democracy. Let their country's people choose who they want. Why would you? Well, if you claim to be the, champion of democracy, and yet you interfere in other countries' elections, that is hypocritical, in my opinion. I yield my time.
All right, Carrington.
I completely agree with that. Seeing as a multitude of conflicts in Latin America and the Middle East, more specifically pointing to Bolivia right now, have undergone a shift in, their democracy due to U.S. interference that has completely staggered them, both socially and economically. It is hypocritical, but also it's just cruel to them. It is essentially making them a mindless puppet. It is a culture wipe of what their stances were, pushes them further on the paradigm, either towards radicalism to the left or radicalism to the right. I yield my time.
All right. Thad, do you want to respond to that, or I guess since you were in general agreement on that question, we could move on.
Move on.
All right. So regarding are conflicts outside of the Middle East that we are involved in. We do have conflicts that are less apparent, I guess you could say, with nations like North Korea that are threatening the United States, but are not, we're not in a state of war with them. So, do you support the idea of sanctioning those nations, or do you think that sanctions do too little, do too much? Generally, what is your stance on sanctions?
Sorry to interrupt you guys, but I may or may not have to go. I will quickly discover whether or not I have to go.
All right. I guess we can let Carrington respond to this question first, then I guess we'll see.
When it comes to North Korea, as well as any country that is showing aggression towards the United States, I think that any sort of sanction against them ends up being horrid later on, as it only makes their economy, or what is present of their festering, failing economy, to be even more deplenished by American force.
Sorry to interrupt, but I will have to go, and yeah, bye.
Oh.
Well, are you able to at least provide your closing statement?
No, I will not be able to provide statements. Sorry. Bye.
Goodbye.
Have a good. Well, you can finish off.
Okay, to quickly finish, I do find that when it comes to something like North Korea, it's clear that diplomacy has not worked. However, we should try to reach for more binding resolutions within the United Nations and try and find alternatives to the current stalemate that we have been stuck in for decades at this point. The DMZ clearly between North Korea and South Korea is not working as it currently stands, as it's clear that they need to have a victor within that conflict, and we have in part played into that. Anyway, that's really all. I yield my time.
Alright, well, seeing as he had left, I think we'll be fine with just closing out today's episode.
Yep.
Is there anything you'd like to say, David?
I don't have anything that I would like to say, but Carrington, do you want to give any sort of closing statement, or are you good?
I'll just quickly wrap it up. It won't be that long. I believe that with many of the things that are advocated under many of these candidates that claim to be more leaning than others are faulty at best and terribly naive and dangerous at worst. While I do agree with many of their ideas, it is clear that that won't work functionally in the real world, or at least will never make it to the light of day for any Congress for legislation. I do feel that we need to have more liberty and that the marketplace solutions aren't always the correct answer, but we can't try and burn down the establishment. It's not that simplistic. I yield my time.
Alright, well, hope that wasn't too bad for you, and I would say not bad for as well. But I guess we'll figure it out afterwards. Otherwise, overall, I think this was a good showing on our parts. Very enjoyable to listen to you both express your views. And let's hope we can try to do this more. Maybe David on the hot seat, maybe me on the hot seat. Who knows? But anyways, I'm John Wang.
I'm David Kang.
And I'm Carrington Hughes.
And this was Political Malware. Good night.